Right, what am I going to tell you about next? Yeah, I want to give you a little update. It's only a little update. It's not, but the case of Anna Knezevich that we've been covering, the woman that disappeared in Madrid, and I went to Madrid, didn't I? And went to the flat and took some footage and spoke to some people, etc. And then since then, of course, so Anna Knezevich disappeared. She was texting a friend, everything was fine, and then just suddenly silence. Then friends and family received texts saying she'd met some guy in the street and she was going off to spend a few weeks with him or a few days with him in some summer house in Madrid, just outside Madrid. And that was it. She just disappeared off the face of the earth, like they do. But of course, people don't disappear off the face of the earth, as we know. Anyway, as time's gone on, her husband, David Knezevich, who actually was supposedly living in Serbia at the time, as that's where he's from. Anna is Colombian, but she had American nationality. She was living in Florida with David, but then their marriage started to falter. So she wanted a new life, and she went to Spain. Came to Spain, to Madrid, to start a new life, but it was there was a lot of money involved. They had a business together. There's no children involved in their relationship, but they had a business together, and they were arguing about the money. It's always the money, isn't it? Follow the money. And he only wanted to give her 25% of the business. She wanted 50%, of course. And so there were some, he'd also been unfaithful to her. It turned out he'd been quite abusive to her. Anyway, she'd gone to Spain, started a new life. She was having a great time. She'd met new friends. She was learning to salsa dance, all these things. And, she was having the time of her life. Anyway, then she disappeared. So it transpired. So this is again one of those cases that's gone quiet, and then suddenly it feels like there's some action. Again, any case that involves the Spanish police will always be like that. But I think even in America or Britain or anywhere, while the investigation is still going on, there's always like silence. It's like radio silence, isn't it? Because they're investigating, but especially in Spain, this case was made secret. Nobody could talk about it. Nobody could, you could talk about it, but they wouldn't release anything, not one piece of information. Anyway, then all of a sudden, flurry of activity, and David was arrested at Florida Airport. And it turns out they had CCTV of him actually in Madrid. He was in Madrid buying black spray paint and duct tape. And then, of course, they had the CCTV from the apartment block. Somebody in a crash helmet, which actually you could clearly see was David, spraying the CCTV with the black spray paint, aerosol spray. And then also, because he didn't actually spray it out properly, apparently this CCTV, we haven't seen this CCTV of him coming out of Anna's apartment with a suitcase. Then he'd actually hired a car from Serbia, and the hours or the kilometers that he'd driven were consistent with him driving all the way to Spain and back. When he returned the hire car, it was the windows were spray paint, was what we call it, tinted. He'd had the windows tinted, and also he had a different registration number on there. That he said the other registration number had been stolen in Madrid. I mean, it's the craziest that he's like this sort of, I don't know, he thinks he's clever and he's not. He's ballsed everything up, or he's underestimated the Spanish police. And this has been like all the countries that have got together. So it's been Colombia, Serbia, America, Florida, and Spain. All the police, all the agencies have worked together, and David Knezevich has pled not guilty. He hasn't been charged with murder yet, don't forget, because they have not found Anna's body. So they're still looking for Anna's body. I think they're more or less given up the thought that she could possibly be alive. She was probably in that suitcase that he was taking out of the apartment. But unfortunately, they haven't yet found her body. So they haven't charged him with murder, but they've charged him with kidnap, apparently. Anyway, so that's the sort of backstory to this. If you're a regular viewer on my channel, which you all probably are as members, hi Maggie, hi Julie, you'll know about this case. And then it's gone really, the last time I did an update on it, they were searching, in Soraya, just outside of Madrid, that's sort of on the way to Serbia. Because you can drive from Madrid to Serbia. There's no, it's all land, so you could drive. And well, that's what he did, really, by the look of it. So a little bit of an update. I think it's just the police. Now, this is in Spanish. But here they are anyway, so this is Davido, with the mad eyes. There's Anna, poor Anna, and she's a tiny thing, very tiny woman, and very beautiful woman, 40 years old, looks younger, no children, but her family, they're all, her mom and her brother, etc., they're all in Florida. And, anyway, they wanted to go to Madrid. I've been in touch with her best friend, Sana. We've actually spoken on Messenger. I haven't spoke to her for a while because there's been no news, but I expect, they've just accepted the fact now that Anna, unfortunately, tragically, is probably never coming home. And Davido, he may get the death penalty. At the end of the day, if he doesn't, he's probably just keeping quiet, hoping that they never find her. And then it makes it harder to give someone the death penalty if there's not a body. It's not impossible, but it's more difficult. And according to his lawyer, that stupid woman that we watched her talking, she said, Anna could just walk in at any moment. We're hoping that Anna will just turn up and walk in at any moment. I don't know how these defence lawyers do their job, to be honest. I really don't. I'd rather bloody clean the streets than do their job. I think there's much more morality in it. Anyway, I know that everyone's entitled to a defence, but just sometimes you just think, oh, for God's sake. Anyways, let me read it to you, what it says. So the search for the body of Anna Knezevich is continuing. While they're analysing in Serbia, they're analysing the car that he rented, that her ex-husband rented, his house and his clothes. So I expect they've been doing that for a while. So it's funny that they've suddenly coming out with this. There'd be a reason. I wonder if something's about to break, because for them to suddenly, after all this time, I mean, they must have been. Can't have only just started analysing the car, but they've only just come out with this new, dropped this news article. So the Spanish police, the American and the Serbian police are analysing in Belgrade the car that the ex-husband of Anna Knezevich rented, his house and his clothes. The body of the 40-year-old woman disappeared in Madrid on the 2nd of February, but has still not been found. But they're continuing looking for her in Europe. So now, this is where it's complicated in Spain, the way they hear cases. But this case went to El Juzgado de Violencia sobre la Mujer número 9. Now, what that means is that's the Violence Against Women Court, number 9 in Madrid, and that's one. I remember saying to Sana, once it had gone to this court, they're holding it in the highest priority. You know, violence against women now in Spain, it's like a hot potato. You know, I think Spain's traditionally had a bad record of domestic violence towards women, and they've really tried over the last sort of 20 years to, you know, eradicate it. Well, they won't eradicate it, I suppose, but you know, they've tried to do something about it and show how serious they are about it. So that's where it's gone. That's when it was made secret. And remember, we talked about that when I went to Madrid, which I can't remember when it was when I went to Madrid. Was it March or April or sometime? So, and it's them that have asked for the information. So in Spain, although the Guardia Civil or the Policía Nacional, they're the police, but it's the courts that sort of demand the evidence and type things. It's very complicated, like everything in Spain. But anyway, so they've asked for this information. Apparently they asked for it in June, but we're only just getting to hear about it. Anyway, the Spanish authorities are continuing to treat. They're continuing to try to make tests to collect evidence in the case of Anna Knezevich. Now, I thought his case was coming up in August, but I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to. This will be a complicated case because there are different agencies working on it. So even though they're working together, you know, it's still difficult, isn't it, to accumulate everything between the Spanish authorities, the Serbian authorities, the American authorities, the FBI, and also the Colombian authorities, though, because it had turned out, hadn't it, that David had some he'd been in contact with a woman in Colombia that he'd met online, and he'd asked her to translate these messages, and she told her mum about it. She told her mum that he'd asked her to translate these messages, and she'd met this man called he used his real name. That's how stupid he is. That she'd met this man called David Knezevich online, and her mum, and good for her, that's a good mum for you. Her mum had Googled him, and as soon as she Googled him, it came up that his wife was missing, etc. So it was them who went to the police originally. You know, it's a hell of a story, really. You know, it's like something you could make a film out of it, except unfortunately for Anna and her friends and family, it's real. So yes, she disappeared from the Barrio de Salamanca in Madrid while she was, going through a divorce or facing a divorce. And now David Knezevich has been imprisoned in Florida as the presumed murderer. But the body of the woman is still not been found. And this is crucial to be able to sort of clear up the crime. So David has Serbian nationality and American nationality. And Anna also had double nationality, Colombian and American. And it's been processed. Yeah, he's been processed so far, or he's been charged so far with kidnap. So he's still in prison because, remember, he was refused bail because he's a flight risk, obviously. So he's not able to have any bail. So what they're saying here is until they find the body, they can't accuse him of homicide or murder. But I think they can, really, even without the body. But maybe in Spain you can't. But he's being charged in Florida. So anyway, this is just what this article is saying. And he could face the death penalty because Florida is still one of those states in which the death penalty exists. This looks quite interesting. I might go into this more because it goes into the reconstruction of the crime, the details of his detention, etc. But I'm not doing that tonight because we're just going, as I say, these are just snapshots of different cases we're looking at tonight. So the Spanish police, in collaboration with the American and Serbian, is analysing the car that he rented to go and come back to Serbia, and to arrest us. Yeah, and they arrested him in May in the Miami International Airport after he'd flown to Europe, from Europe to America. It says here the case could be 2 months, the case it will be heard. So they've got 2 months to get as much evidence together as they can. I'm sure if they get evidence like DNA and things like that on his clothes and blood and stuff, I'm sure they can still charge him with murder. Anyway, now there was some talk. Let me just see if I can find it. So they believe that he travelled from Miami to Europe, especially to murder his ex-partner, because he was in this full process of divorce, and they couldn't reach an accord over the financial matters. So, they lived in Fort Lauderdale until their separation, and they had so it just takes a while in Spanish because they always say things the wrong way around, so I have to go to the end of the sentence to interpret it. Oh, it's flicking. Hang on. Right, where was I? Yeah, so they had been married for 10 years, or more than 10 years, and they were rich. They had a big fortune thanks to their business. So the investigators have determined that David Knezevich travelled from Serbia to Madrid with a rental car, murdered Anna Maria Knezevich in her home. Oh my God. Just the thought of it, was she just in there and he just broke in? Or did she let him in? Did he pretend he was like a pizza delivery person? Or I don't know how he got into her home. But how terrified she must have been. Because she was in there, she was just texting her friends. And then she just suddenly went, she'd been on text with her friends. Just the thought of it, of him breaking in, how scared she would have been, bless her. Anyway, so they're saying that's what he did. He just went there, he sprayed the cameras, and they think, so they think that he suffocated her. Don't know how they think that or why they think that. And he put her in a suitcase before he went back to Belgrade. So where he's put that suitcase, that is what they cannot find. And I think the only thing is, when they do find her, I hope they do, and I think they will eventually find her. But surely the fact that she's in the suitcase, will that help with forensic type things? Will that have helped preserve evidence? I don't know. Let's hope so. Bless her. So apparently there was no blood found in her apartment. Oh, here's Riley. So that's probably why they think that he suffocated her, because there was no blood found in her apartment, nor any indication of the crime. So how did he do that? How did he must, what I think what they say is basically he hasn't shot her or stabbed her, because there would be blood, I suppose. Anyway, David rented on the 29th of January in Belgrade. He rented a Peugeot 308, a blue Peugeot 308, with no GPS incorporated, and it was not returned on time. He was supposed to return it to the office on the 17th of February, but he asked them if he could keep it till the 24th of March. And he said that he had tinted the windows because the sunlight was irritating him. Finally, he handed in the vehicle on the 15th of March, and he said that he could not do it before because he suffered un percance. Not sure what a percance is. Let me just find out. A mishap. He'd suffered a mishap. Never heard that word before. That's, there you go, I've learned a new Spanish word. So he said that he couldn't do it before because he'd suffered a mishap as he had fallen asleep. In the rental office, they found that he had done 7,700 kilometers. So although they didn't find anything in Anna's home, they have found things in David's home. And in the car. So it's being analysed apparently at the moment in detail by the Spanish, American and Serbian authorities. They have taken numerous muestras, they've taken numerous samples from the interior of the vehicle and also from his home. They have found clothes with a stain that is thought to be blood, according to ABC, which is a news thing. So how stupid is he? What's he doing keeping clothes there with a stain on it that could be blood? He thinks he's a criminal mastermind. He's like, he's rubbish. Anyway, they're waiting for results. And there are other indications that also are being studied, like the changes in the number plate that he did during his trip in the car, CCTV images of interest, and the messages that he asked the Colombian woman to translate over WhatsApp. So the investigators believe the motive of the crime is economic, that he killed Anna Maria because he didn't want to share their fortune of $15 million. So $7.5 million wasn't enough for him. He wanted the whole lot. She wanted 50-50 and he only wanted 80-20. So the principal objective now is to find the body and then take it from there. So there's been the Court of Violence Against Women, number 9 in Madrid, have commissioned searches France, Italy, Croatia, Slovenia and Serbia, because she could be anywhere, couldn't she? That's his trip that he's made from Madrid to Serbia, and he's gone through all those countries, and she could be anywhere, but hopefully they'll be able to pinpoint some areas. I would be surprised that he went over the border, but of course, he took her over the border to dispose of her. But of course, there aren't, it's open borders now. So anyway, those are the countries that he's had to cross until, to reach his home in Belgrade. So they've combed the areas with drones, dogs, many kilometers in the Carretera R2, points like Soria, Guadalajara and Zaragoza, but they haven't found anything yet. So they're trying to pin down the positions of the mobile phones of David and Anna to sort of, check the journey in abroad. and they might be able to detect some unusual stop or unusual movement that can let them deduce that was when he's, got rid of the body of his wife, and her family are waiting for news. So I hope they find her. I mean, he's had to put her somewhere. The suitcases, normally turn up. Where has he put her? Anyway, I just thought I'd give you that update. So at least, it's still being investigated. I think them, I definitely think, hi Yvonne, I think that's a possible thing, David, because they're probably checking the tires of his car, and they can do a lot with like, what soil is in the tires, or what foliage, what's the word I'm looking for? What plants are in the tire treads and things like that. Even back in the Soham murders, that was part of how they sort of pinned Ian Huntley's car to the deaths of Holly and Jessica, because they analysed the treads on his tires and things. So that's possible. So that's a little update on